Hi there and welcome to another episode of Plane Chasing. My name is J Menzies of J Menzies Productions. Today I have with me storm chaser and tour owner Nick Drieschman. Hi Nick, welcome to the show, nice to have you.
Hi James, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Could you just start off by telling me a bit about yourself and where you grew up?
Sure, so I grew up in San Diego, California, which for somebody that's involved with severe weather is kind of an odd place to do that. And through the time there, I spent my time kind of looking at monsoon thunderstorms and desert Southwest and the monsoon stuff out there, and that just kind of progressed into where I'm at today out here.
Yeah, now do you have any other hobbies aside from storm chasing that you like to do?
Yeah, I've always been into DJing, a certain genre of underground music called drum and bass, so I've got that going for me. I've always enjoyed cars and racing and motorsport and things like that.
Yeah, and I see from your profile that you also like to do a lot of fishing as well.
Fishing, yeah, big into the fishing for sure. I can't believe I forgot that one actually.
Yeah.
I just asked you if I could fish in your lake 5 minutes ago.
I know you did, yeah, that's all right. Now, did you always want to be a storm chaser, or was this something like you just grew into over time?
You know, storm chasing for me, I think like a lot of people that are the younger kind of generation started when I saw Twister, of course. And then, you know, that moved into seeing storm chasers on Discovery and things like that. But when I was in my teens and early 20s, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, I would go out to the desert and actually just drive into these monsoon thunderstorms. And at the time, I didn't really think of it as traditional storm chasing, but you know, in effect, I was kind of storm chasing. It wasn't really until 2012, after I had a little bit of an injury and really sat down and kind of looked at what real storm chasing was, that it was like a light bulb went off, and it was something I decided to just put my mind to. And yeah.
That's awesome. I've been out to Arizona and I love the desert storms out there. So yeah, that really is storm chasing. Like seeing those haboobs and the lightning and everything. It's a great place to chase, and I love doing it.
Yeah, especially if you're into landscape photography for storms and that type of thing. The lightning out there is just epic, and the storms out there, they're so isolated that sometimes you can really just see all those storm features. So it's definitely a treat to get out there and do some monsoon chasing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and who would you say has been kind of your biggest role model throughout your chasing career?
Well, there's certainly a few people. I would have to give it up to Reed Timmer, or Dr. Reed Timmer, if you will now.
Yeah.
Obviously being influential, seeing him on Storm Chasers, the show. And then, you know, earlier kind of on around 2013, I had the pleasure of meeting up with Reed out in Las Vegas for one of his talks that he was doing with the, I believe it was the National Air Traffic Control. And I'd been streaming on TVN for a while, and he had just kind of mentioned, hey, why don't you come out and say hi? And I had met him then, and kind of began a friendship with Reed, which at the time it was very kind of, you know, schoolboyish, very, very giddy to meet him, and excited for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of just steamrolled into kind of what it is today, with him handing over the reins of Extreme Tornado Tours to me, and being someone that I consider a friend. So he's definitely a role model. I'm intrigued by how much actual knowledge of the science that he understands. In fact, just last night I was texting him talking about the differences of a singular inflow tail versus, say, kind of multiple stingers when you have convergence. And actually, Dodge City was a good example of that. So I'm just intrigued by how much he's been able to soak in terms of tornado science and severe weather. So he's definitely one of those guys for me. There's plenty of others as well. I love the creativity of Pecos Hank.
Yeah.
There's just multiple people out there that I really look up to. I look up to my guys that I chase with on Extreme Tornado Tours. Kevin Rolfs of Base Hunters. I've had the privilege of chasing with a lot of very good people throughout the past couple of years, and so I look up to those people as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you decide you wanted to run a tour company, or was this when Reed offered to hand over ETT to you? Yeah,
so I've known a guy by the name of Matt Phelps, still a great friend of mine. And I believe it was in 2012 or 2013, I actually invited him out to my house in San Diego, and he came out. And at the time, he was a guide for ETT, and we kind of talked a little bit, and he introduced me to Reed. And from there were some talks about me coming out to be a guide in 2014 that didn't materialize. I ended up spending that time. Reed gave me a spot to crash at his house when I was doing my own personal storm chasing out here during that time. And then in between there, in the 2015 season, he kind of offered me a spot as a guide. So I came out, I packed up all my stuff into my truck, I got rid of the bigger house for rent, and I just moved into a little place to save up money and sold pretty much all my furniture and came out here, and I lived at Reed's house for about a year. And I was a guide in 2015, and we kind of moved into more of a managerial experience because I had had a past managerial experience with my prior careers. So it just kind of happened that way, that we were out there and just I was a guide, and I kind of just took a role of leadership, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy working with the people that we do and kind of, making these people's dreams come true. And so it was just kind of something that really worked together. So it just kind of happened. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What would you say has been your most hair-raising experience on a chase? Have you ever got really close to the point where you thought you were in danger? I mean, or just seen something that just you didn't believe? I mean,
there's definitely a couple of those. A notable one was actually, I was fortunate enough to be able to chase with Reed kind of as one of his solo partners on a couple of chases during the 2015 season. And we actually had a tornado down near, I believe that it was Lone Camp, Texas. I'm not sure on that one, but this was one of those times that it was one of the first times I had chased with him. We were close range to a rain-wrapped tornado, and we were just coming right up behind it, and Reed's just kind of screaming at me, "You got to get out and sit out on the edge of the window." And so here I am suddenly, maybe just 6 months before, I was sitting at my office in San Diego doing desk job type things. And now I'm hanging out of a GMC Yukon with a tornado less than, a couple hundred yards away, and trees flying over my head with the video camera in my hand. And I was thrilled, actually. But at the same time, obviously, you really it puts things into perspective. So that was one time. But more recently, in 2017, was the Canton, Texas tornadoes.
Yeah, those were pretty significant. Yeah.
It was, and it was one of the only times that we obviously, we run a tour company. It's very important that we have people's safety in mind, but we also want to give them the experience of being able to really feel, not only see a tornado, but to hear it, to smell it. And so we want to be able to get them up close enough, but safely. And there's a really fine line, as you would know about chasing, to being able to do that. And this particular situation was a violent tornado. It did a lot of damage, unfortunately, and injured and killed people. And we were in a position there where we had great roads that we could bail out. We knew that we were safe. We knew that those roads were unobstructed. And the tornado was coming right towards us. But tornadoes, they kind of are deceiving at times, especially when they're coming towards you. And we felt that we had a good grasp on the situation, and we were able to get the tours out safely. But it was one of those moments where in the days and even weeks and months afterwards, I really had to kind of, talk to myself and say, are we really doing the right thing when we're kind of sitting in front of tornadoes and that type of thing?
Absolutely,
but, so it's sunk in with me quite a bit. And honestly, it was just so poignant having, a damaging tornado, that we obviously go out to see these things because of their beauty. And when they do things like hurt and injure people, it's a completely different side of the coin. And we really try and educate our guests on that. So the Canton tornado is the one that really sticks in my mind as in terms of just, what tornadoes can actually do and the really negative side of them. So.
Yeah, of course, a lot of people underestimate how strong tornadoes can actually be. And of course,
true.
Chasers like us in the past have seen what they can do.
That's very true.
El Reno, Moore, Oklahoma, that was a very devastating tornado.
Right.
So, and the El Reno day sticks in my mind, particularly about how many chasers were caught off guard on that day.
Yeah.
That's obviously something you saw. You saw the El Reno tornado, I presume, didn't you?
Unfortunately, I did not see the El Reno tornado. But I've talked to a lot of people that have. I know that a lot of the stories from that, especially from other tour companies, that it was just obviously a really difficult tornado to chase. And then the Moore 2013 tornado, our meteorologist and lead guide, a veteran guide of Extreme Tornado Tours, Kevin Rolfs, was there for that. And I think that he did some major interviews on that one. They had a very close view for that one, him and Scott Peak and the base hunters. And so I've heard a lot about that. Canton was as close as I've been to seeing a very strong, violent tornado. I believe that particular tornado that day was on the high end of it in EF3, and an earlier tornado was on the EF4 rating there. But I've yet to see an EF5 tornado in my 8 years of storm chasing. So, and if I do ever see one, I hope that it's away from towns and people and property.
Yeah. And away from you too.
Yeah, that too. That too.
An EF5 is a force to be reckoned with.
Not by a lot, though.
Not by a lot. Yeah.
I just let it go that way. I just don't want it going this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, now tell me, what would you say has been your biggest achievement in your life to this day?
Well, that's an interesting question. As I mentioned before, it was a big move for me to kind of just pack up and kind of leave and just come do something that at the time was a hobby. I've obviously, as you grow older, you want to know that you have job security and things like that. And I left a great job behind, and I was making, decent money doing it. And but at the same time, life is just kind of, it's going on a straight path. And sometimes you got to shake things up a little bit. And I think that my greatest achievement was kind of shrugging that feeling of security off and coming to do something that I wanted to do. Much like all of us storm chasers, I just absolutely am enamored by storms and severe weather. And, I've honestly never looked back at it. I've never had a regret. I've had people from back home say, why would you go out and live somewhere like that and that type of thing. But I think just kind of letting go of those feelings of security back home and doing something completely different and following something that I love was the greatest achievement of my life.
That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, what would you say is your favorite state to chase in?
That's a good question. I've obviously chased quite a bit. Being on the tours, we chase a little bit more than kind of your average chaser. But I have been asked this question before, and I always answer the same, and it is Kansas. I love Southwest Kansas. I love the gridded road network. I love, for the most part, that roads there are pretty well maintained. The back roads are for the most part gravel. You can get into some pretty funky situations out there, but I love the terrain out there, the lack of trees. And not only that, it just really gives you that traditional vibe of Southern Plains storm chasing. It's kind of that thought of like, when you're a kid and you think of Wizard of Oz, and it's Kansas.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
you always come back to Kansas. And another thing is my grandfather, he's from Holton, Kansas, which is actually in the northeast portion of the state.
I do, I know where that is.
Yeah. So he's up there in that part. So Kansas is kind of, in a way, home to me, even though I've never lived there. But that's definitely by far and away my favorite place to chase.
Excellent, brilliant. Yeah. Now, out on your chases, obviously being with the tour and with the guests, have there been any really good food places that you've discovered on your chases? Yeah,
so I'm a foodie. If you can't tell by the waistline here.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, you and I both. You know what? We absolutely have. And it's one of the things that I mentioned to our tour guests when they get these info packs. We do have these down days. Obviously, you guys have to eat. We're going to make sure that you guys aren't just stopping at, a regular fast food place. So we like to go to different places. Here in Oklahoma City, we like to always take them to, either a Cattleman's or Cimarron Steakhouse to give them the Oklahoma City experience. There's out in El Reno, you're going to get the best cheeseburger you've ever had. A lot of people are all about Sid's out there. I don't know if you knew this, but it's like El Reno is like the cheeseburger capital of the world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. They have like a cheeseburger festival there every year.
Wow.
And there is 3 different diners there, and I believe that it's Roberts or Rogers. I always get this mixed up, but this is just the tiniest little hole in the wall place there. And they just have the best burgers, and I think that grill that guy slaps those things down on has probably been working there for 100 years. And so that's one of the places too, but it's all about the barbecue. It's all about the Oklahoma mesquite steaks, and we just really try and give our guests, that cultural vibe of middle America for sure.
But those hole in the wall places are usually the best places to find good
food. They really are. I mean, a lot of times we have to end up at Applebee's at 10 o'clock at night because it's the only decent place around, but whenever we can get to those spots, we really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Nick, so this video here that we're watching now, can you just describe which video we're seeing here?
Yeah, so this is from Mineola, Kansas to Dodge City. This would be May 24th, 2016. What you're looking at right now is the birth of what would soon become a cyclic and very notable supercell, dropping multiple tornadoes. This one right here, you're just kind of looking at the beginnings to this storm here. You're looking at a little bit of scud and coming up here. These are the tour vans. I was actually chasing by myself this day, but had met up with the tours. So you could see our tour vans there. We've got guests from all over the world. Here you've got people from the UK, Canada, Australia. And so we're looking at the a wall cloud feature here. You can see the storm is just kind of converging here, starting to kick up a little bit of dust underneath that wall cloud there. And we're starting to see kind of the beginnings of some rising motion here. The storm is ingesting some nice juicy warm air. So beginnings to a funnel right there. This is kind of the part of a storm chase where you really start to get excited. This was a day when, looking at the models before, it was, you know, one of those things that you could pretty much anybody could see a tornado on this day if you were to be able to get out there. So
yeah.
we were excited about this one. Obviously, you're starting to really see that thing kind of wrap up there and get its act together. So this was an interesting day for chasing. This part of the video, you could see some dust is swirling down there at this point. You could almost, you know, call it a tornado. Certainly moments later you will, but you could just see this amazing rising motion as this storm starts to wrap up this tornado here. And obviously another little area of interest over there, another couple of little funnels there. There's just so much vorticity in the atmosphere this day. And you're looking at real time right there. That rising motion is real time. Whenever you see it like that, you know that you're probably in for tornado time. So
yeah, at this point you've got almost multiple wall clouds that are multiple areas of circulation that are trying to develop different tornadoes here.
Storm was definitely trying. Now this is sped up a little bit here. The storm was definitely getting itself organized at that time, and now you can see it's got its act together, and it's definitely showtime here. So I think in a little bit here, you can definitely see that thing just wrapping up. I would say this is probably 2 to 3 times sped up here. But visually, this storm, even at normal speed, had an unbelievable amount of motion in it. And right here, this is another cool shot. The guests are just really taking this in. These people, they work really hard, and you know the tours are expensive. Yeah. And so when they finally get to actually see this materialize in front of them, it's a great moment, obviously for them, but for me as a tour operator, it means a great deal that we're able to actually get them what they paid for. This is really cool. You're seeing the helical DNA of the tornado right here. Again, this is sped up probably about 3 times or so. And then at this point here, I was solo chasing this day. I'd kind of told the guys, I said, you know, we really think there's going to be tornadoes today, and I've done a lot of chasing with other chase partners, and I just really wanted to have a big day to myself. I wasn't actually guiding on these particular tours, so I kind of told them the night before, because we're all very excited. I said, you know, I kind of want to go this one alone. I want to do the forecast myself, so let's just kind of, you know, cease phone contact. It was just really important for me to be able to just try and kind of put what I'd been learning to the test on a big day. And so I'm in my personal chase vehicle, the FJ Cruiser here, and now we're actually traveling north right now, and we're actually just paralleling this tornado as the storm is basically moving north. In fact,
that's a beautiful shot there, the way it curves up and then back down there. Yeah,
I agree. You know, for a moment we thought the tornado was in a rope out procedure. Again, this storm is just getting its act going right here, and so when you see them kink out like that, you know, I knew it was probably going to lift for a second, but that thing sure did plant down hard after that. So there's a lot of people that did really great this day, and we're out there. In hindsight, you know, storm chasing is always about learning.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I think anybody who tells you, you know, that they've got it figured out, that they're probably not telling you the truth. There's people that have been involved with this for many, many years, the veterans especially. I think that they'll tell you more than anybody that, you know, storm chasing is just a constantly ongoing book. That all of those pages are still being created, and you're always going to learn. And one of the things I learned this day was you know, I enjoyed getting kind of up close, but I was so mesmerized by that tornado at first when it sat down that I really probably should have been getting closer to it if I wanted to have a little bit of a better viewing angle. I am happy with this day, obviously, you know, but it was really important to me to be a little bit closer, and so I learned a lot that day about being proactive. And
multiple subvortices on the ground there at the base.
Yeah, you can see that getting kicked up in the dust there. You know, again, this thing's, it's just really starting to get stout here. It's just wanting to plant there, and it's just kind of it's taken all that power, and it's about to just put it down on it hardcore here. So yeah, and this was just interesting. I was just, my eyes were just ahead, and I had the viewfinder out on the camera, so I was able to just drive kind of, even at the speed limit right next to this tornado. And I could look just ahead of me and had the camera in my hand and was able to kind of glance over and make sure that it was in the shot. You know? But you've got a really traditional, I mean, when I think of a Kansas, stovepipe tornado, like, you're looking at it right there. That's about as traditional as they get.
Yeah, that's a very classic tornado shape that everyone thinks about when you say tornado.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this one was interesting. We've got some hills that are right here, but you're just watching that bottom half of that condensation funnel, and it just keeps.
Yeah, you've got that perfect hourglass figure starting to form now.
Yeah, and a lot of times in my experience, when you see tornadoes get that lean on them like that, it usually means pretty interesting things are going to happen. And obviously the condensation is very, very thick right there. So
yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, it's definitely a textbook day for sure.
And then at this point, you find the only hill in Kansas.
Of course.
For the shot, yeah.
Yeah, you're in southwest Kansas, which is normally the flattest place ever. And then of course that's how storm chasing goes, though. You may have trees or a hill.
Secondary rotation up here on the right there.
Yeah, this storm always seemed to keep a separate mesocyclone on it, and certainly later in the evolution of this storm, you'll definitely see that. And this is later on when this tornado becomes occluded, and then you've got an extremely stout mesocyclone that at sometimes people are saying that you could see almost 4 tornadoes on the ground. I counted 3. And I think that's included in this video at a couple of different moments.
Yeah, there's quite a few people with pictures from that storm that have, you can count the 3 tornadoes on the ground at once.
Yeah, this storm was really interesting, and just how cyclic it was with tornadoes. And I think that there's some reports, I forget what the exact National Weather Service report was. I believe it's somewhere around 11 to 12 or something like that. Some people were reporting upwards of 13, 14 tornadoes that day, but decided to take a left turn off the highway there. We're on back dirt roads now, and we're traveling westbound.
That's that lovely Kansas grid network.
It is, yeah. And of course, just like you said, I found some of the only hills in Kansas, but luckily we dip down here, and after we come up over the top of this hill, we get a view of this thing, and it's really sat down and planted and started to kick up some dust. So this was a very exciting time for me. I was just floored. I was super pumped up. This day, it really had it all for me. We just had... from being in the spot where tornado genesis happened to chasing for hours on end and seeing multiple tornadoes and barely driving, I would say more than 20 miles at best. That's very rare in storm chasing. So now you've got a good view of that tornado sitting down out there in the field.
And this is as photogenic as it can get right here. I mean, this is beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
You even got your classic farm there as well for your shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. Zoomed in here. This is sped up again 2 to 3 times just to kind of, keep things moving in the video and to really kind of just show that motion down there. And
and there's a flying Nick.
And there's little me just running out there doing whatever I do.
Now, did you have any guests on this particular tour that was their first time out?
You know what? I think I'd have to remember back on that. This ended... It was kind of a funny little moment here.
So, that's a good shot, though.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny. I don't remember for sure. We deal with up to 90 guests a year. And I can say that Chapman happened after this, which was, a very memorable tornado.
So another
as
one
well.
I missed.
Well, I unfortunately missed that tornado as well because I had to attend to business back in Oklahoma City. So directly after this, I drove home. And I was sitting in my house sometime very late that evening after this and had a business meeting the next day. But Miss Chapman was excellent. I do know that there are some guests that had been with us on multiple tours. We have some just really great people that come with us. In fact, it's interesting with you being British. One of our favorite guests is a guy by the name of Roy. I'll leave his last name out there for him just for privacy purposes, but Roy will take 3 tours with us every year.
Wow.
He'll do 3, 4, and 5, and 4 and 5 are 10-day tours. So he basically spends a month with us every year. And this guy, he's the consummate tour guest. He never has complained once. He's absolutely ecstatic about anything. He absolutely loves lightning. He's got a new camera he's bringing out this year. We just love Roy.
That's always nice to have a guest that just loves to be on there for the
He's
moment.
awesome. And all of our guests are great, and just Roy's extra special. And in fact, on that Chapman Day, the day after this, it was nice. You could see that nice horizontal vortice poking out on the right side up there. Yeah, and this tornado is occluding now, so it's being choked off. And what you're getting is the inflow convergence is coming in from your southeast here, and a new mesocyclone is off there to the right.
Here, off to your right, you can see it starting to develop now.
Yeah, so that center of low pressure is traded off there, and that secondary cylinder of that mesocyclone is now taking over as the dominant area of interest in this particular storm, and it's really starting to ramp up as well.
And you were fairly lucky too on this storm, because this was a fairly low precipitation supercell.
It was.
Or LP as they're called.
Yeah.
Because your rain kept mainly to the north side of the storm, so a lot of people had the very clear view and the clear, dry base to the south.
That's
and those are some of the best storms to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, it's really hard to find a better storm than this when you've just got these photogenic tornadoes. You've got these just beautiful structure of the mesocyclone. Towards the end of this video here, there's a really neat shot of the sun shining down through. It's really hard to actually see, the crepuscular rays of sun shining and having storm structure. And so, this day had it all. It really was just a dream of a chase day. And you can see that tornado's, it's been choked off and it's roping out now. So that new mesocyclone is going to take over here. And yeah, it was just, you look at these storms, and a lot of times, what I remember about this was just the size of it. I mean,
that's a beautiful meso forming.
Yeah, I mean, you're just looking at that one there, and it's just, I think that was Stephen Barabbas, actually. Props, Stephen. And yeah, I mean, just the size of this storm, it was just immense. And like you said, rain-free base over there, still got a tornado roping out. The trajectory of this storm was pretty interesting too, in that it did really travel north the entire time. In fact, I believe sometimes it had almost like a westerly trait to it, but when you look back at that, I mean, it almost went pretty much due north. And that was one of my things is with this storm, when I was saying about the learning experience, I maybe spent a little bit too much time back here. I should have been a little bit more proactive about keeping up with the storm. And obviously I am happy with what I caught, but in the future it's maybe something that I'd work on a little bit better. And I really did think that this storm would at some point in time start to take kind of that east trajectory, and I thought that I was in a good place to be able to go up north when I needed to and intersect the storm as it came through. But it just kept chugging along up through, and the best thing about this day is seeing all these tornadoes and very strong tornadoes, and miss a pretty big city in Dodge City. So now you've got just ground scraping, and this thing's now it's turning into a white cone back here, a little bit of a stovepipe.
Yeah, I'm going to get a high contrast tornado here shortly.
Yeah. So you've still got some sun that's poking in from the southwest there, and so this is when you'll see a lot of these just thin, just rope type tornadoes that are all kind of circulating about the parent mesocyclone. And just a really interesting chase day. So I think this is about when I start traveling north a little bit more.
Yeah, there's your second tornado off to the right there.
Yeah. So you can see those tornadoes planning. There's another one back in there too, just thin little ropes in there. So there is a couple of times here when you can actually see multiple tornadoes on the ground there, but again, just a beautiful,
that's a beautiful shot there.
Yeah. So these are some of those Kansas roads that typically are pretty good. I've definitely seen much worse than this. But they started to get pretty funky here. So we were slipping and sliding around out there. Luckily, a lot of cars were able to do pretty well. But as you got a little bit further north over some of the areas that did have some of that lighter supercell precipitation, you did actually see some pretty bad mud spots going on. So another rope back in there, just dancing around up there. Just multiple vortices, and they're tearing up the countryside up there like it ain't no thing. So really cool stuff. Fast forward it just a little bit here, and some of those tornadoes, you could still see the rising motion in there. This is real time too, but it's just an epic amount, and still the original ongoing tornado back there. And very rare that you see that. These are my friends right here. I was just thinking, Yeah, I think that was them. My friends Adri and a good buddy Corbin, who we lost unfortunately, and so I just wanted to say a little bit of something about him because we miss him a lot. So
yeah, that was quite an unexpected tragedy.
Well, it was awesome being able to experience a day like this with him and being able to see him. And I remember hanging out the window and yelling "yeah" at them, and it was just a cool memory for me.
Yeah.
And I got to experience the Canadian tornado with him, which was awesome as well. So, yeah. So it's just a great day. I just have lots of positive feelings about this day and just think about that stuff a lot. But man, look at that emotion in there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Look at that.
It's just intense. Yeah, a little bit. You know, I'm shooting through my windshield here. In fact, actually, this is the part. There's Trey, Adrian, Corbin right there. Their Sequoia threw me off before, but yeah, I'm shooting through the windshield right here, and you've got cracks everywhere and all that stuff.
Gotta love hail.
Yeah, I gotta love the hail. I'd actually.
There you go. You've got 2 tornadoes now. There you got actual 2 ropes coming down to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. You got 2 rope tornadoes there. So you got your 3 there.
Yeah, that would be 3 there.
That's a confirmed 3 there, right there, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that there were some people.
That's very unusual to see.
Yeah, exactly. So now we'd been going north, and now we're going west again. Still an ongoing tornado out there.
Very high base too at this point as well. It's
true.
Where this tornado is at this point, it's higher. And
here's a really nice shot right there. That's
beautiful there.
Sister's shot right there. Still got the new mesocyclone, and they're just interacting together.
Wow.
You know, typically in these situations, you know, that old mesocyclone, it'll quickly choke off that tornado, and that new mesocyclone will take over. But that thing just sat back there, and it just kept. It had a little bit of juice just to keep going, and it was just meteorologically speaking, certainly beyond my particular skills and talents and knowing to be able to say what was going on, but. I'm sure that there's some people out there that could explain that a heck of a lot better than I can, but just really cool to be able to experience it. Again, I'm going to try and go north here. We head up this road a little bit, and it's rained a good amount up here, and I've seen some people get stuck up there ahead of me. So
yeah, this looks like a very...
There's some people slipping and sliding around a little bit.
Yeah, I saw him about to go there. Yeah.
So we sat back and just decided to watch this one. I think.
Oh, that's incredible. I've never actually seen a shot like that. That's just unbelievable. It's like the old circulation's completely moved to the back of the storm there, and you've got the new meso up front here.
Yeah, it has just eddied off of it. In fact, you can see it. Now we're sped up again, drops a new tornado there, and then there's your old one, and it's occluded now.
Yeah.
And so now that tornado is going to go ahead and wrap around the parent circulation. That is just structure central right here.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, my day ended in Dodge City, Kansas, where I contemplated the most amazing storm I had ever chased, and still to this day, 2 years later, it was just
beautiful picture.
Yeah, it was just a great day for sure.
A lovely strong barrel tornado in that image as well.
Yeah, it really did.
Very big barrel tornado.
Yeah, I've seen some vantage points from the other side that really showed that tornado set down. From my vantage point, it was a little bit different. But yeah. Well, thanks for watching it with me.
Absolutely, that's some fantastic video. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming and being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me, James. It's been a great time.
Absolutely, and I wish you all the luck for this season, as we're starting to get to that point now.
We're almost there, man. I'm excited.
We're nearly there.
Yep.
Right, thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
Thanks for watching this episode of Plane Chasing, and be sure to tune in next week for the next episode. Thank you.